Welcome to the Hats and Bats podcast with Kevin and Matt. Love the little bat drop there now at the end. I'm just focusing on it.
That was loud. That seemed very loud this time.
I don't know what's up. We gotta change the audio, mess around. There's a little undertone that goes on there. I don't know if somebody's talking in there. I'll have to clean it up. But welcome to episode 9 of the Hats and Bats podcast. Today is Wednesday. I almost said April. Good Lord. May 22nd. Dude, it feels like...
I know. Don't go backwards.
No, God. Can you imagine if it was April right now?
Oh, my God. I mean, I have June fatigue in my body right now. It has just been... I'll actually give a lot of credit to my kids. They've been really, really good to start the week. I really thought this could be a week from hell, but they want out. I know they want out. I want out. But they've actually been real troopers. And I don't know about your classroom, Matt. Do you guys have air conditioning?
Thank God.
We don't.
Really?
No, it was thankfully I taught early in the morning. I actually didn't have any afternoon classes today. I had one, but very, very small one. And I got to hang out in my former department head's office because he has air conditioning. But one classroom across the hall for me got up to 82 degrees. I guess on the third floor, one of the math teachers said 88, which is crazy, which I cannot imagine those poor math teachers.
I had to bring a jacket to school because my classroom is so incredibly cold.
So we just got I don't want to hear that. I don't want to hear that nonsense.
Oh, it's awful. So I had long sleeve on today, brought a jacket. I have my girls bringing blankets to school because it's so incredibly cold.
I have no sympathy. And I know this is not a teaching podcast, but all my fellow brethren out there who are sweltering in the heat, I'm not allowing this. I'm not allowing Matt to complain about how cold his classroom is in May when it's 80 degrees outside. Get out, open a window, get some warm air in there.
We were told specifically not to open up the windows because it's going to mess with the AC unit.
That's fair.
Doors closed, windows closed. Fair. So I looked at my thermometer in the room. It was 68.
I'd gladly trade with you.
It did not feel 68. And I'm literally teaching. I'm I'll take this rather than having a heat stroke.
All right. Well, listen, you and I are both in a comfortable spot right now. We're in our cozy little offices. We got a great podcast for all you guys today. Let's get right into it. What we got this week, Matt?
So with us both being major soccer players, not soccer players, I was too fat to play soccer. Being major soccer,
no endurance. Yeah, go ahead.
So Manchester City just won their 4th consecutive Premier League title, which had never been done before in the Premier League history. So all the Man United teams, the strong Liverpool sides, the one time where Blackburn Rovers snuck in, won a Premier League title, Leicester, no Premier League team has ever won 4 titles in a row. So that made me think across baseball, football, basketball. Of course, you had the Celtics with Bill Russell that ran off that stretch of 8, 9, 10 championships in a row.
Yep.
But my question to you this week is, who is the only Major League Baseball franchise that has won at least 4 titles in a row? They actually did it twice.
They did it twice, and it goes along with the theme for today. It's the New York Yankees. They did it from 1936 to 1939, and they did it again from 1949 to 1953.
That is absolutely insane. You are spot on with all that. Yeah. So 36 to 39.
Yeah.
It was led by Lou Gehrig after Babe Ruth's final year was 1934.
Yeah, it was. That New York Yankees team, Rob Nyer wrote a book a long time ago. I'm pretty sure it's Rob Nyer, called Baseball Dynasties, and he called that 36 team the greatest baseball team of all time. Again, not in terms of talent, but in terms of just, I think, how much better they were than everybody else that season and during that run. You have an aging Lou Gehrig who is still putting up big numbers, but you also have, Joltin' Joe DiMaggio and his magical rookie season, and the beginning of his career was one of the greats as well. And from 49 to 53, you have the golden age of baseball with the New York Yankees, Brooklyn Dodgers, New York Giants, fighting it out. But yet the Yankees went on this, I would say, an even more incredible run from 49 to 53. We had these magical, World Series matchups against the Dodgers and, of course, the Giants. The Cleveland Indian teams were very good during that time as well. The Yankees, unfortunately, did it twice.
What year was the year of Murderers Row? Was that like 28?
That's 20. That's 27. Murderers
27.
Row would be 27, which I'm going to get to in a little bit. I actually have a fun little story for you too. Want me to do the fun little story now, or you want me to save it for later?
Let's go. We'll skip past. We'll come back to.
No. It's okay. No, we don't have to go. No, let's. I can just tell it without the slide. I don't need the slides in order to tell it.
Go teach.
All right. So really interesting story, and read this great book called Bonsai Babe Ruth. And Bonsai Babe Ruth is when this MLB like all-star team went to Japan in the 1930s to have these exhibition games with the Japanese. And this is at a time when, again, tensions between the United States and the Japanese are revving up. The Japanese government is getting ready for World War II and its preparations with war against the United States. And the United States knew this too. This mission by Babe Ruth, Lou Gehrig, Jimmy Foxx, and other all-stars that were going on this trip really was like a peacekeeping mission to keep relations alive between Japan and the United States. And they had to beg Babe Ruth to come on this journey. He ends up going on this journey, and supposedly, Matt, really a little gossip. I don't know if you knew about this. Now, you knew, I'm sure, about the rivalry between Babe Ruth and Lou Gehrig, right? During like the home run race. Have you heard about that?
Yeah.
All right. So a lot of people have speculated that Lou Gehrig and Babe Ruth did not get along because of that rivalry. And Babe Ruth had come out a few times in the press saying how Lou Gehrig was a mama's boy, and Lou Gehrig didn't like that. And that might have been a little bit true, but according to the story, on this boat ride over from the United States over to Japan, apparently Lou Gehrig's wife found herself in Babe Ruth's cabin with Babe Ruth's wife. Now, we have no idea what happened, but according to the story, Lou Gehrig opened up that door, saw something he did not like, and apparently never wanted to talk to Babe Ruth again. So, again, we don't know what happened. I'm not suggesting. Maybe it was just as simple as Lou Gehrig was a very clean-cut guy, did not really like to drink or, go out and party or do any of that stuff. I'm sure he didn't want his wife doing that either. This is Babe Ruth. He's quite the partier, as was his second wife, who would have been on that journey as well. Perhaps they were just sitting in the room and, enjoying just like the evening, and Lou Gehrig didn't like it. Who knows? But according to that story, that's what really caused this rift between Lou Gehrig and Babe Ruth. And Babe Ruth had been released by the Yankees that same year, prior to this trip. So we don't really know what happened, but as the legend goes, when Lou Gehrig delivered his famous I'm the luckiest man in the world. I was going to say,
I say Martin Luther King.
Wrong speech. Sorry. The luckiest man in the world speech. He was not thrilled that Babe Ruth was there.
Really?
So little gossip for you, little drama for you.
I always knew of like Babe Ruth as being like a secret asshole. And then I knew that there was a rift. I never knew anything. Is it have to do with like relationships or like
with Babe Ruth?
With like the wives, or like was he like making passes?
I mean, I would say most players loved Babe Ruth. Most players loved him. They loved hanging out with him. He was a fun guy. Don't forget, Babe Ruth was, I don't want to say an orphan, but his father basically gave up custody of him. He couldn't handle him anymore. And he sent him to the orphanage at the age of 11 or 12. And he was raised by priests. And when he finally left the orphanage, I mean, he was a really immature 17, 18-year-old boy. I mean, no one really taught him properly how to, have manners and how to carry yourself. And when he was unleashed on the world, when he signed that contract with the Baltimore Orioles and then later with the Boston Red Sox, I mean, everything was his toy. Everything. He loved buying stuff. He loved indulging himself in food and alcohol and clothing and, technology, everything. Absolutely everything. Babe Ruth tried to literally consume every facet of life. That's why they had to add the pinstripes to the uniforms, because he was getting so big. So I think Babe Ruth rubbed Lou Gehrig the wrong way, because Lou Gehrig was very clean cut. He was very well mannered. And that's kind of what caused them to really never click as teammates. They both did their job. They both did it incredibly well, as we'll see in a little bit. But yeah, I would say Babe Ruth almost universally was beloved by players on his team, even players on the opposite side as well.
I did not know that. Look at you,
Yeah.
like just
What
off the spur of the moment, just knowing all this.
I don't punch out. Okay, this teacher mind just doesn't punch out. You want a lesson? I'm going to give you a lesson.
Let's go. Love it.
All right, let's do it.
Okay, so starting off just quickly, here's a hot take. I'm done with City Connects.
Yeah, they're all bad, Matt. I've been telling you that, buddy. They're
Like,
just all bad. Not Tampa's, but this is bad.
They don't do anything for me anymore. So when I saw these initially get like, they always get not released, but there's always like somebody on Reddit or something's like, hey, here's a spoil, here's what's coming out. I was like, there's no way that this is what's going on. Buddies at work now know how I am with like uniforms, hats, stuff like that. They come up to me and they're like, what is the deal with these? You literally take your batting practice jerseys. You change out St. Louis and put the Lou.
Which I like the Lou, but like not like this.
So here is, let me see. So the Lou, here's their new City Connects. Here's their spring training hat or uniforms from this year. Like there's nothing different. They have their typical like BS stuff where like, okay, like St. Louis, and they've got like the river patterns, like very faintly as like a pinstripe. They have the year that they came into existence. I'm done. I don't want them anymore. I feel like aesthetically they don't look good anymore. I feel like teams either like overuse them, underuse them. There's just it's turning into the NBA. Remember when the NBA went through a whole phase where it was just like uniform on top of uniform, and every year it was something different. You're like, this isn't the color scheme. This has nothing to do with them. This is just complete lacks creativity. So they were like, they looked at Detroit and they're like, oh, you literally wrote Detroit across your cap. I'm gonna one up you. Hold my beer. I'm going to eliminate some letters, and here we go. We're just going to put STL on it. And I'm completely done with these. I have no excitement for these whatsoever anymore. It's just, I'm done. Stop these. Go back to the traditional. St. Louis should wear their baby blues if they're going to go anything different. Get rid of the City Connects. I'm done.
I'm with you, buddy. I'm with you. You know, I thought when Tampa Bay came out with theirs, I'm like, okay, we're coming back. We're coming back to what this is supposed to be. And then Detroit came out, and then now this came out, and it's just, I'm not feeling it either. I'll tell you, see that patch though in the bottom left with the STL and the what is the patch? I'm trying to make it out. It's almost like the Saints logo there.
Yeah, but so I see the Fleur de Lis.
Okay, I see. Oh, no, perfect. So I see the arch as well for the arch in St. Louis. Why is that not the logo on the hat? Like you have it. It's right there. Put that on the hat. And like that's being creative enough. Like that's good.
It would be symmetrical. There is a guy, I should have wrote down his name on TikTok that I follow. He would be somebody I would love to talk to because he generates all these City Connects before they come out. Every single one that he's created is infinitely better than what ends up coming. If you're Nike, if you're Fanatics, I don't know how you don't look at this guy and be like, his stuff is exponentially better than what we have. Let's employ this guy. He had like the arch, but it was like sublimated, completely different what they have. He uses like word type that's throughout the city. He implements that in a creative, colorful, yet traditional way where it doesn't look like neon lights glowing in the middle of like a rural area. It just doesn't stand out like that. And he just does things so tastefully. I'm done. Even though I'm wearing my new Fanatics.
Oh, there you go.
City Connect for Mets. I'm done. I honestly don't care anymore. I know the Blue Jays are coming out pretty soon. They're supposedly going to incorporate purple into theirs. I have no desire. Once it comes out, that's great. I'm not going to pay 2 seconds to it.
I'll tell you, my Fanatics order came in as well. I'm actually wearing one of them right now. This is, I don't. Do you know who this is? This is the Montgomery Biscuits. That's a biscuit you're looking at, sir. That's a biscuit.
I thought for a second it was going to be like a mini wheat. I thought
I'm all back into the minor league hats. It's a nice little burnt orange brim with the black inside. Absolutely love this one. But Matt, I think this one, right? I'm going to make you feeling better that because you don't like these jerseys, you're all down on City Connect. So I'm going to make you feel nice and good. This is the other one right here. This is the Biloxi Shockers. It's one of their theme nights.
Hold on, I'm gonna make you bigger here. There we
All right,
go.
so there we go.
Is it a donut?
I think it's like a cake or something. I when I bought the hat, I looked it up, I'm like, oh yeah, it's this kind of pastry, but now I can't remember the name of the type of pastry exactly. It looks delicious. If I wasn't gluten free, I totally would eat that thing. But I'll tell you, this hat is amazing. I love the purple with the yellow and the green. I mean, this hat just spoke to me, and it did not speak to my wife at all. She hates this thing. She thought my Jersey Shore one was bad. Oh, she hates this one even more.
The pinwheel one that she doesn't like?
I love this. No, she hates the one with the crab and coming out of the bucket.
Oh, that's right. With the pail.
Yeah, exactly. So I've been feeling the minor league hats. They actually, again, came from Fanatics. So I'm going to give some credit Fanatics, which is unheard of on this podcast. Both fit incredibly well. I mean, they are the perfect 7 1/8. The brims are actually not terrible either. So maybe dip your toes into the minor league hat waters there, Matt, because these have been quality.
Did I tell you so? Like, as I always say with my hair, growing it out, I had to go up to 7.5.
Yep.
But my Rays City Connect was too big. My Diamondback spring training was too big, and my Pirates spring training was too big. And I'm like, do I want to like steam these to try to shrink them? I actually found they have like this foam that you can buy that comes in a little roll, and you put it on the sleeve on the inside of the hat.
Okay.
It makes the hat fit so much better. So even now that I'm going up in the size, and typically it was like really like puffy out on the sides, they fit so much better to the point where I'm like, these almost feel like hats from like 10 years ago because like they fit so perfectly and I
Nice.
could adjust it.
Oh,
So I'm
perfect.
like, maybe I'm feeling a little bit better about these, but it's just like, it's a beautiful hat. I can't go outside and wear that right now. I would literally be soaking wet.
Yeah. That is the problem when it's above like 80 degrees.
Yeah.
And I'm not sitting on the beach with a breeze. These can be hard to wear unless it's like nighttime and I'm going out. Like, just like get a bite to eat or a drink or something. But yeah, I don't know. I do. I love this time of year to break out all the bright colors and whatnot. Yep. I'm a big fan. I'm a big fan of the minor league hats. But you're right. When it's too hot, I put these off to the side and I'll go with either 47 brand, or I even broke out a couple of snapbacks as well. Yeah. Some mesh ones just to kind of ventilate this head a little bit.
So what I'm doing now, and I've kind of been known about this at school, I am officially a bucket hat guy. Oh
my God. One of my students said I should get one. I'm like, I can't pull that off, but I think you can absolutely pull it off.
Oh, I can't pull it off because I look like a fisherman. So yesterday I'm selling chicken after school. I have a bucket hat on, the aviators on. I look like with the hair, the beard, everything, I look like I've been out to sea for about 20 days. I look like Ernest Hemingway would write a novel about me. I come back, I'm just like, my face is all red. It's not a good look. I can't sweat, and I will sweat profusely with a fitted on. That's why I got this one instead of the Mets one. That's why I've been wearing the bucket hats, the 47 dad hats. I saw again on TikTok that like you don't wear dad hats anymore. Dad hats are now out again.
No, sir.
Like, I don't care.
Absolutely not.
You're
terrible
a dad.
take.
You can do it. I'm not a dad. I will wear it though, and proudly do it.
I would say to look more our age. Yes, the dad hats are definitely way more suitable. I will tell you, Catherine loves them. When I have a nice one on, she enjoys that. She said, "Okay, that looks good." I'm like, "All right." These not so much, but I don't care. That's to me that's a terrible take. I love the dad hat. I love 47. Yeah, absolutely.
So when I was telling you before, I had prom this weekend, so I'm chaperoning now. The senior class was my first class at Chalmont. Probably one of my favorite classes I've ever taught. I love the kids.
Oh, great!
So I'm just like going about talking with everybody. The kids are at like the photo booth. They're getting like really tired. It's getting after like 9:30. They're like, yeah, I want to go home. I'm like, yeah, I'm getting tired too. The one girl said to me, who again, I love her. Okay. She works at Canales. I see her all the time. One of my favorite students I've ever had. She goes to me, well, aren't you like close to 50?
Ouch.
And I was like, oh my God, I've never been more insulted before in my life. Now I know I'm getting a little gray in here.
Mm-hmm.
But being called 50, close to 50, I'm like, it was like part of my ego was forever torn. So I'm just like, I'm going to rock the dad hat. I don't care if I look older. I don't care if it's out of style now. I try to keep
You
hip. I
know,
can't do it anymore.
it's not about looking older. You look distinguished.
Yeah.
You look more distinguished. But this stuff, I mean, these keep us young.
Yeah.
I think like what you got going on there, you look like a younger guy. Nothing wrong with that, you
That's why I
know?
love you. Do your kids say like skibbity toilet? Has that reached down to you?
I have not heard that at all. I mean, they could be, but I have not heard it.
That's all I hear. I hear skibbity Ohio, skibbity toilet, skibbity this. I'm like, maybe
Is
I
this
am old. I'm officially just accepting it.
I will say, and I've said this many times before to my students. I'm like, I'm glad I'm old. After hearing your slang and like how you all giggle at it, I'm glad I'm old and I don't talk like you. I'm okay with that.
Yep. And the fact that we wear ankle socks, I would get ridiculed if I wore tube socks or crew socks when I was in high school. Like literally, like I can't go to school today because they're gonna make fun of me. Now they're like, "Oh, you wear ankle socks." I'm like,
Yeah, I know. It's everything's reciprocal. You know, everything goes in circles, so
yeah.
in cycles.
But
Sorry.
except for these, we're done with the City
Yeah.
Connects. No
Yeah.
more of
End it.
those. Just
End it, sir. Absolutely.
Speaking of something else that I just want to end because it's starting to make me feel like we're going down a path that I don't like. Or a
Okay.
team where I'm like, this team looks like it's very formidable, and I don't know if they have too many weaknesses. The New York Yankees.
Yeah.
Please tell me they're not going to win it all this year.
So, I mean, I can't tell you how many people I talk to, Yankee fans, who are just so beyond the word excited. And typically, when Yankee fans, especially the last like 10 years or so, when they get excited about things, I smile. I'm like, that's great, guys. Go for it. You know, love it. Love this moment. You're right. You're back. John Carlos Stanton, of course. No, he's not going to get hurt. You're fine. You're right. Jabba Chamberlain. He is the next ace of your rotation. Go right ahead and enjoy yourselves. And because typically the way I've examined the Yankees, and I've been right over the last 10 years or so, it's like, yes, they show these glimpses, they have these stars, but I don't think they have a complete team. This year, I smile and I go, yeah, you might be onto something here. This has the feels of one of the classic, like, good Yankee teams. Not so much like the 98 Yankee team. I mean, this team is built way different. But there's a lot of comparisons that we can make to teams of the past that I think make the Yankees, yes, a formidable foe. There's no doubt about it. They are one of a handful of the best teams in this sport right now. And I think even though we're in May, it's clearly starting to separate itself. We have, I believe, 5 teams that have over 30 wins. The Yankees are one of them. I know the Braves, I don't think they're one of them, but they're very close behind. To me, in the American League, it's coming down to the Yankees, the Orioles, possibly Cleveland, but I think the Yankees and Orioles are another category above them. And who's ever coming out of the West between the Mariners, Rangers, and I guess Astros if they make a run. And the National League, the Phillies, as we've been saying all podcasts long, Matt, are probably the most complete team in baseball. They're playing like the most complete team in baseball. And the Dodgers, of course, are not too shabby either.
Can I interject real quick?
Go right ahead.
So the Phillies have not played a team with a winning record since the first series of the year.
Yeah.
They're literally playing like the Savannah Bananas like every week. And they're up. I don't think they play another team that has a winning record until we get to like the second week in June.
Yeah.
So they're playing the Rangers right now, okay, who are under 500. I think they're like 24 and 25, something like that. But then they play like the Rockies. So as much as I'm like, yup, I would bet on the Phillies. I'm not 100% sure yet, just because they've literally played no one.
I totally get that. But again, I also think this baseball season is a very top-heavy league.
True. The National League sucks.
I mean, when you look at the National League, for example, you have your Dodgers, you have your Phillies. You have to include the Braves, but they haven't been playing great baseball. I like what the Cubs and Brewers are doing in the Central, but I would not consider them in the same class as the Phillies. And the Padres have not really figured things out. Luis Ariz has given them a nice little bump, but they're still hovering around 500. The Diamondbacks are below 500. I mean, yeah, so I get what you're saying. They haven't played a lot of great teams, but my argument would be, well, not many teams are that great. So you do have to beat the teams on your schedule. It's kind of like the same argument I made about the Twins a couple of weeks ago, how I didn't believe in them. And the Twins started playing harder teams. They won a couple of tough series, but then they played the Yankees, and the Yankees made them look like a pretty pedestrian team. So, yeah, I just don't think there's that many teams out there as of right now that are really rounded out as well as the Yankees are. So, to answer the question, are the Yankees again? My fear is they are. Now, I'm going to paint a picture where they are able to sustain the success and where it all could fall apart. And Matt, I'll leave it up to you to determine what you think happens. So
it's going to fall apart already. I'm just going to, you can sell me that they're going to win 115 games. I will still say they'll fall short just because I hate them. Anyway, you were saying.
But it starts all right here with the two sluggers. I mean, this duo right here is unlike anything we have seen in a good, solid 20 years. Juan Soto and Aaron Judge are off to such an epic pace right now. They are possibly having two of the greatest, I would say, in the history of the game, seasons that two teammates can have. Now, you look at what you're looking at right now is Juan Soto and Aaron Judge's projected stats based on how they're doing right now.
I was like, that would be pretty fantastic if they did that in like 40-some games. That'd be a heck of a record.
one heck of a record. But it has in 162 games, it has Soto hitting 316 with 36 homers, 116 RBIs, and the OPS at 9.6. But the runs created is at 9.1. That is outstanding. I mean, that is absurd. And we'll see how absurd that is in a little bit. You'll get Aaron Judge. Now, Aaron Judge got off to a slow start, but now Aaron Judge can't stop hitting home runs. And right now, he's projected to hit 271 with 43 homers, 95 RBI, a 988 OPS, and an 8.6 WAR. Because the one thing we forget about is that these guys have also been incredibly good in the field as well, with Judge being in center, Soto seeming to find a new gear in right field at Yankee Stadium. You can say he's more motivated, or maybe he just figured something out in the offseason, how to improve his defense. But nevertheless, these two right here is what's propelling this lineup. It's what's propelling this team. I think it has like a real Michael Jordan-esque, Tom Brady-esque effect on everyone else. It's just elevated because of the presence of these two guys. I mean, just think about that as a baseball player, Matt, because we both played the game. When you have two guys who are producing like they are, it takes so much pressure off of you. I don't have to worry about, stressing if I don't get a hit in the situation here. I can just focus on moving runners over, having a good at bat, doing the small little things that take pressure off of my game, because I know I got one of these two guys is going to pick up the slack.
I think it's the best 1-2 combinations probably since like Manny and Ortiz.
It's so funny you said that. Yeah, go ahead.
Wait, I lost where my cursor is. There it is.
There we go. And that's my first comparison, is that when I think about Juan Soto and Aaron Judge, the next duo I'm thinking about is Manny Ramirez and David Ortiz. And when you put their numbers next to the numbers of Manny and Ortiz, it's incredibly similar. Now, both Manny and Ortiz, you can look, we can nitpick this, and we can say, okay, well, they had more RBIs and their OPS is bigger. But look at, it shouldn't be runs created, it actually should be WAR, where I put there for runs created for Soto. That should be WAR. But you look at the WAR of both of those players, and my God, I mean, it's significantly better than what Ortiz and Manny did. Now, Ortiz was a DH. Manny, as we know, was fun out in left field, but far from a good defender, especially by the time 2003, 2004 rolled around. Yeah, I mean, when we look at this, you have to start to ask yourself, is this Soto and Judge combination better than Manny Ramirez and David Ortiz? And it was Manny and David Ortiz that, again, propelled this Red Sox group to break the curse in 2004. So from a number standpoint, it's staggering how similar it is. But from an all-around game standpoint, as of right now, and again, the season's still early, but this is Juan Soto and Aaron Judge. These guys have that pedigree that Manny and David Ortiz had. especially when it comes to putting up regular season numbers. This is not out of the ordinary that Judge and Soto is going to do this all year long. So they compare very well to what I would say is the next best example we have during our time. But what about to other Yankee greats as well? Go to the next one. You look at Babe Ruth and Lou Gehrig, and you go, okay, these numbers clearly are not fair. I mean, no one's hitting these numbers in today's age. But again, everything is proportionate. Babe Ruth, Lou Gehrig, of course, did not have to face, black players, Latino players, players from Japan, other Asian countries. There was a significant decrease in talent during the time Babe Ruth and Lou Gehrig played, which is going to elevate their numbers during this time. Another thing to consider as well is the slider wasn't a real pitch yet by that time.
People are plumbers.
I hate that. I hate because my kids say that stuff all the time too. And it's fine if that's what you want to think. But again, there weren't a lot of guys in the 1920s doing this stuff though either. There was really only a handful of guys. So to me, talent is talent in any era. It's not.
You can't drop Babe Ruth in today's game and think he's hitting with those stats.
Okay. So let me just throw this out there. If you dropped Babe Ruth or Lou Gehrig with today's modern technology, if you put them in baseball academies, if you gave them the best diet regimen, you gave them the best access to healthcare, you're telling me that it's not a possibility at all with the hand-eye coordination that they had, that they could never be good or even great players in today's game? If we gave them the same modern luxuries, there's no chance of that happening?
I don't think they're being great. Like, I've never liked Babe Ruth's swing. To me, it's like it is not a 2000 hitters swing.
It's not. It's definitely not. But who's to say as terrific of an athlete as he was, like, who's to say he possibly wouldn't have modified his swing or changed something to adjust to the game, And like, again, this is the history teacher in me.
Mm-hmm.
To me, all history is relevant. We all connect. We're all people. If you drop us into certain time periods, if you dropped Aaron Judge at his size with no workout regimen, again, I'm not trying to say Aaron Judge would not excel in the 1920s, but you change up people's regimens, who knows the outcome that's going to change because of that? You know what I'm saying? So I'm not ready just to unequivocally say that any player prior to whatever date it is you want to pick, because don't forget, Mickey Mantle was never in the greatest of shape. I mean, he partied way too much, drank way too much, but no one would ever say that about Mickey Mantle.
But his body style, his body shape was so much better than Babe Ruth, even with all the drinking.
Hank Aaron, I would still argue to this day, is the greatest right-handed hitter of all time. You still have to accomplish the feats. And yes, I know the talent today is clearly much better than it was then, but everything's proportionate, I believe. Look at the days Ty Cobb during the dead ball era. I know we're really going off tangent here. The days of Ty Cobb and all that. I mean, they played with discolored baseballs. They only had 3 or 5 per game. The rules were so slanted towards pitchers. But guys like Ty Cobb and Honus Wagner batted 100 points higher than the league batting average back then. They had talent. They had something. That's why they were so great at the game. So that's always my stance. We're never going to be able to prove it, but to just hands down say, oh, there's no way they would ever be successful in today's game, I still think is just as laughable as you guys laugh about how they wouldn't be able to play in today's game, because we don't know. We don't know all the circumstances.
True. That's a valid point.
All right. I had to go on my soapbox there for a little bit. All right. How do I get back to the PowerPoint now? How do we do this now?
I'll ship it back up onto here.
Perfect.
Whoops.
I do, and again, like I love my baseball history. It's what connects us. I like thinking about what could happen if guys like Lou Gehrig, Ted Williams were able to play in today's game. What would have happened? How would stats be different? How would we determine, or who would we determine as the greatest baseball player of all time? That stuff fascinates me, because to me, talent is talent.
It's the fact that you are a history teacher that romanticizes history.
Oh, 100%.
Yep.
Wait, so I'm not embellishing this, though. I mean,
Not embellishing, you're
yeah,
romanticizing.
but I feel like it's just a fancy way of saying embellished.
No, because embellish is like you're like exaggerating. This, you're just taking something that is like, okay, there's a special place in my heart for it. It's like the McDonald's ball pit when you're growing up. Like that was like the best place in the world. And now when you look back at it, you're like, yeah, maybe it had its warts. Maybe it did kind of smell like piss. But in that moment, it was like that. It was like the pinnacle of being a 5-year-old at a birthday party.
All right.
When you're 35, looking back at it, you're like, I'm not letting Charlotte go into that. But when you're
Oh,
there,
that's
you're
very
like,
true. I would not. Yeah.
I hold a special place in my heart for that.
All right, so let's compare him to a little bit more of a modern duo, like the Eminem boys, because Garrick and Ruth were Murderers Row, Maris and Mantle were the Eminem boys. How does Soto and Judge not have a nickname yet? Because they need a nickname. Because again, when you compare their stats, again, incredibly comparable. And the fact that Mickey Mantle actually posted the season he did in 1961, considering all of his injuries and what he had to battle, is again, it's absolutely staggering. But when we do the side-by-side comparison, and again, these are historic seasons from Maris and Mantle. I still don't think we've seen the historic season yet out of these two guys. If Soto stays in New York, who knows what kind of ride he could go on? Maybe he's challenging these records. Nevertheless, when you do the side-by-side again, we see a lot of commonalities. This is the next great duo in the sport of baseball. And it is good for baseball that it is happening in New York, and it's happening with these two guys. As much as I hate the Yankees, from a health standpoint in the sport needs this. And this is something the sport should be sinking its teeth into. We are in for a fun ride with this Yankees team. But that's not even the best part of his team yet. Go to the next slide.
Didn't Brian Cashman call them like the crazy eights? Do I remember that? Because
maybe I don't know. That's not sticking.
I think it was because of like the scale of like the 20 to 80 scale that they like grade everybody on. He said it was something like, I think because we have 280 outfielders, not many teams have that. Like
right.
Crazy eights is like that.
That's lame. No,
that's like a skateboard trick.
Yeah, it's not stick. I mean, but to me, this is what's making the Yankees as dominant as they are. Their pitching is just unfair right now. You have a team ERA of 2.87, which is first in Major League Baseball. Teams are only hitting 214 against them, which is the highest in baseball. They've only allowed 347 hits on the season. That's good enough for third in Major League Baseball. And the crazy thing is, they don't even have their best pitcher yet. Garrett Cole hasn't pitched a single inning, but the bullpen's been outstanding. The rotation's been outstanding. Stroman, this is what Stroman does. He's going to give you 5-6 strong innings every outing.
But there's a major caveat there. He is a first half pitcher. He is not a second half pitcher.
He is, but let's also consider this too, Matt, that now he's one of 5 guys. They're not asking him to be the ace. When he was with Chicago, he kind of was the ace of that staff. Kyle Hendricks is way too old now to consider the ace. When he was with the Mets, when DeGrom went down, we looked at Stroman. He was the next guy up. So I think in this situation here, yes, I totally get it. In the second half, he's nowhere near the same. Let's see what he does in the postseason as well. But this guy battles, and he's going to give you 5-6 quality innings. And with an offense as good as they are, 6 quality innings or 5 quality innings could literally mean giving up 3 to 4 runs, which is not great for your ERA, but it's going to keep you in every ball game. That's what Marcus Stroman does. And I know people don't like how arrogant he is. He kind of takes the mound like he dominates batters, and he doesn't.
I hate it.
But it's efficiency. His efficiency, to me, dominates the game. And that's what I think makes him a perfect fit in New York. You know, you have Nestor Cortez, you have Clark Schmidt, who's figured things out, Lucas Hill, who's been pitching very well. And then Garrett Cole comes back. So go to the next slide, because how they can sustain this.
Isn't Cortez, though, wasn't there like the whole thing about him possibly going to like the bullpen? Because wasn't he not doing as well?
Yes, I think that's definitely a possibility because now they do have I mean, Carlos Rondon has been outstanding as well. It's possible they can move him back into the bullpen as well. But my God, Matt, coming out of the bullpen, I don't know if I want to face Nestor Cortez. I know you don't. It's okay. I know. I know you don't like it. I'm just saying there might be a place for it in the game. There might be a place for it. So how the Yankees sustain this success? Number one, Garrett Cole returns and is Garrett Cole. If he's just the same guy he's always been and coming off this injury, this Yankee team can reach even new levels. Number two, the duo is historic. And I think this is the one you almost can bank on here, barring major injury. If Judge and Soto play an entire year, it's going to have that same ripple effect that Manny and Ortiz had on the Red Sox. Or if you want to do outside of Boston, what Prince Fielder and Miguel Cabrera were doing for the Detroit Tigers 10, 12-ish years ago. This is a crazy good duo that I think is going to continue to propel the Yankees. And of course, the Yankee rotation has to remain the strength for the entire year and the postseason. Because what's hurt the Yankees in the past is Boone has always been way too reliant on yanking starters out of the game and taxing those bullpen arms. This is the first year that Boone should not have that problem because his guys are giving them so many quality starts. They can go deeper into games than they have before. And now this bullpen, once they get to the postseason, should be very well rested and probably as dominant as they usually are in the regular season. We see this every year. Guys like Tommy Kahnle and Clay Holmes, they're great in the regular season, but then they're gassed come postseason time. If the Yankees rotation can keep this up, stay healthy, keep pitching deeper into games, that's going to make the bullpen that much harder to hit come this postseason. That's how they can sustain this success. But there is this other side of my brain that goes, okay, the Yankees have been the same Yankees team for the last decade, really since they won their last World Series in 2009. And have they all of a sudden just changed because of the addition of Juan Soto and maybe Marcus Stroman, if you want to say that? Or is that same Yankee DNA still there where it looks great on paper, it looks great in the regular season, but could this fall apart? So if you go to the next slide here, this is how I think it could fall apart. People were really concerned about this Garrett Cole injury. Many people felt that, God forbid, if this Yankee season doesn't go the way they think, do we push him out a little bit longer? Maybe we don't rush him back before the All-Star break. Maybe we see how he's doing in August. And if he's not having the surgery, when is he having the surgery? It's going to be in the offseason. So that means we lose him all next year. So he's going to pitch with a compromised arm, and we're going to expect him to be the Cy Young favorite with a compromised wing? That to me is still a little concerning. I'm sure because it's Garrett Cole, he gets in the mound. He'll be Garrett Cole, probably in his first start. Go 7-8 innings and strike out 10, like he usually does.
7 or 8 innings, Aaron Boone should be fired on the spot.
But could he? But you get my point, though, right?
Yeah.
That he's going to look dominant, however long he pitches. But my point is, can he sustain that for an entire year if his arm's that messed up that he needs surgery? Is he going to be good to go for the postseason? So my worry is Garrett Cole returns, and he's not Garrett Cole. That he is compromised a little bit. Therefore, the Yankees don't have that ace. So now they are relying on Stroman to be their ace. They are relying on guys like Clark Schmidt and Lucas Gill to be as good as they are in the first half, to be as good as they are in the second half. And for rookie pitchers, that's tough. Because by the second half of the season, the book's out on you. We know what you got. We know how to make adjustments. So that's a real possibility there. The second possibility is the other 7 are just not enough. Because last time I checked, Giancarlo Stanton is still in that lineup. And we know there's going to come a time where he's not in the lineup. DJ LeMahieu had his rehab with my Hudson Valley Renegades last night. He is coming back from injury, but he's another older injury-ridden player as well. Gleyber Torres is having a very good year. Anthony Volpe is having a very good year. But can they do it for 150 some odd games? Anthony Rizzo is still old. Trent Grisham and Alex Verdugo, there's a reason why they've been bounced around Major League Baseball. They are not everyday starters. They're fourth outfielders. So I look at these other 7 guys in the lineup and I go, is this really a postseason lineup? Soto and Judge, I have no doubt about it at all. At all. But is this really a postseason lineup that pitchers are going to be afraid to pitch against? I'd be afraid to go against Judge and Soto. But we've seen how this story's played out for the Dodgers. They had two guys like this last year. They still have them in Mookie Betts and Freddie Freeman. But we saw both those guys hit cold streaks come October, and they were bounced. So I'm wondering, does this lineup have enough depth to sustain success throughout the postseason? And I just touched upon the starting rotation as well. This is what still concerns me about the Yankees. I see why everyone's getting excited, but I do think all three of these here are real concerns. I don't think it's a definite the Yankees are going to be, okay, they're the World Series favorite. I don't even think they're the American League favorite. I still like the Orioles better than the Yankees. I think they're a more complete team than these guys. But I've eaten my words before. I've grown up eating my words when it comes to hating on the Yankees. I don't think I'm hating on the Yankees. I think I'm being very generous talking about these guys. But I do see a path where it can fall apart. And this is how it would happen.
I was shocked to see that the Yankees have the third best odds to win it all behind the Dodgers and the Braves. Mm-hmm. They're plus 600. The Orioles are plus 1,000.
Yep.
To me, that's very good value. For, again, running is so drastically different than baseball, obviously. But with running, I've gone through like numerous injuries. I've hurt my knee. I've hurt my ankle. Whenever you're trying to come back from an injury, you are so cognizant of that injury that you injure other parts. So where I've hurt my left knee, it's like, okay, I want to make sure I'm so focused on my left knee. I'm planning correctly. Everything's fine with my left knee. Next thing you know, my right hip is feeling pain because I'm trying to overcompensate. We see pitchers all the time trying to come back. Even look at Edwin Diaz now. Do you think he trusts his plant leg? Now, your legs are different than your arms, but is Cole going to be able to be like, okay, I'm going to rear back, get that 99 on my fastball? Is he going to have faith in it, knowing like this could be my last pitch? I could completely blow my arm out.
Yeah.
The injury concern is like major. I can honestly see it where it's like he starts doing rehab and it's not the Garrett Cole of all, where you're sitting 92 compared to sitting 98, which again, we see with Diaz drastically changes the way you are as a pitcher. Pitchers are so mental that if you have one thing that's not in prime condition, everything else can completely fall apart. So when you're relying on somebody here to be like, you're going to be our stud going into October, we need you to go through a lineup 3 times. Is he going to have that mental fortitude to be able to handle that? And he seems like he's the Texas kid, the bulldog, all of that. But again, when you're sitting there, and I know baseball contracts are guaranteed, but if you're like, millions of dollars are riding on my arm, am I going to be able to let it go? Am I going to be able to go that extra inning when I'm at 110 pitches? I don't know with that.
Well, there's also this reality too, Matt, that he might have to air it all out because there's no guarantee that Juan Soto comes back next year. Now, again, I think he's going to re-sign with the Yankees. I still think he loves it there. And I think as a baseball player, you get comfortable with something. And yeah, I'm comfortable taking the Yankees $550 million or $600 million, whatever they offer me, compared to the Mets $700 million. I could possibly see that. But I could also see him saying, okay, $700 million is a lot of money. So I will go in
as an agent. He's going to the highest bidder. And you think Cohen's going to come off of this year? We're going to lose Pete. I've come to that. Pete's gone. Okay, I've got this beautiful model out in the market, and the only thing it's going to cost me is straight money, not prospects. He's a bona fide young stud, left-handed outfielder who the Mets sorely need. I'm going to drop 7. You're telling me Cohen can't get creative and go Shohei route?
Soto still has to say yes. And again, Matt, how many guys has Cohen targeted and not got?
But and really, again, who had like Shohei was like a West Coast. I don't think Shohei was going to come if Steve offered him a bill. I don't think he's coming to New York. And some players like don't want to play in New York, and I completely understand it.
But that's my thing. I don't even think I don't want to play in New York. I don't want to play for the Mets. I think that might be part of it too, because we have gone out there and went after guys, like even guys who've gone through our system. Now, I'm not saying Steven Matz is Juan Soto, but There are guys who can come through the system who don't want to stay here and go to other places and flourish. You look at guys like Justin Turner. You look at guys like Andres Jimenez. Like, and again, that's not all on Cohen, but I still think there's a stigma there that I see what you're saying about the money. I see what you're saying about the determination of Steve Cohen, what he's going to want to do. But Soto still has to say yes. And I don't know. If he's cozy on that side of New York and he's getting paid hundreds of millions of dollars, that might just be good enough. But if it's not, because let's say this up for the Mets stuff. If it's not, this is the Yankees window. Because once Soto leaves, if he does leave, what are you left with? It's the same old lineup with just Aaron Judge, who's now going to be another year older. So Garrett Cole's going to have to air it out. If he can, this is it. This is the year. If the Yankees are going to do it, it has to be now. Unless Soto signs early, then you can adjust your plan a little bit. But Soto ain't signing early. He's going to hit the open market. So if I'm the Yankees, I'm Garrett Cole. I'm looking at the situation going, we are all in now. Because if it doesn't happen now, it ain't happening for a while.
Is he going to be willing to go all in, though? He's got a ring already.
Well, I mean, I think Soto, all he has to do is be Juan Soto. I mean,
but I'm saying with Garrett Cole, like, am I going to be?
I mean, to me, yes, he has his ring, but you know how guys think. You know about legacy. The ring means something a little bit more if you do it on the Yankees.
Sure.
It's going to mean more, yeah.
And what's the X factor that I think could hold the Yankees back? Every single Yankee fan that is in my life, and tons of my buddies at work are Yankee fans. Not as much this year because obviously they're doing so well, but all of last year, only thing I heard about all the time is how much they cannot stand Aaron Boone. And there's going to be some moment. Now, I understand managers are so devalued now where it's basically like upper management puts everything in.
Yeah, they're making those decisions, yeah.
But there's going to be a situation in the game. Like, are you going to be able to be like, okay, putting all my chips center of the table, Aaron Boone, you're going to make the right choice. You're going to go against like the script of like the lefty on lefty, the numbers. You're going to have that gut feeling. I don't know. I don't know if Aaron Boone, again, baseball manager, different in football, different than basketball, but I would still not be like, gun to my head, Aaron Boone's going to save my life. I don't know if I would be. To me, he's not Buck Showalter. To me, he's not even like a Dave Roberts. To me, it's just like, okay, you are the puppet with Cashman and everybody else are pulling the strings.
Yeah.
If you have that spotlight on you, like, I don't know. I was shocked he came back this year. So, I mean, it's just
because management loves him. He does what they want him to do.
Exactly.
They don't mind him. They don't mind him at all. Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right, let's get to let's see what segment 3 here. Here we go. So now we're digging for third. And digging for third because
give it away.
No, that's all right. That's okay. We're at this point in the year, as we were just saying a little while ago. There are some really great teams. And boy, there are a lot of teams that are on the struggle bus right now. I thought at this point in the year, we'd see more teams over 500. But again, you have great teams like the Yankees, the Guardians, the Orioles, the Phillies, the Dodgers, who are just blowing by the rest of the league. And we're left with a lot of teams sub 500 that you had to start to wonder, okay, is this working? Should we continue to build this thing up, or should we just go ahead and blow it up? So I took 2 teams. Matt took 2 teams. We're going to tell you if they should build it up or blow it up. Now, with my 2 teams I picked, I'm going to stay away in the beginning for exactly how this team should blow things up, because I worked out one hell of a trade with my other team. So let's get right into it. The Toronto Blue Jays, they need to blow it up. Go to the next slide.
Amen.
They need to go to the next slide. Again, so much has gone wrong. And I hate this for the Blue Jays. I don't relish that I'm saying the Blue Jays should give up and abandon this plan, because the Blue Jays operated how I want all small market teams to operate. They went for it. They have money. They have lots of money. And they go, you know what? We're going to spend it. We are going to try to invest in this group, invest in our young stars, and we're going to turn them into perennial World Series contenders. And he had a brief little glimpse there right around COVID, a little bit afterwards, and that glimpse is now gone. And three things have caused this demise for the Blue Jays. Number one, they thought they had 2 stars, and unfortunately, they only have the one. And that one is Bo Bichette. This is another year Vladimir Guerrero Jr. is struggling. He desperately needs a change of scenery. He needs a new hitting coach. He needs a reformation, if you will. And he's not getting it there. They needed him to be in the same category as an Aaron Judge or a Juan Soto. And he's not coming close to that anymore.
I think his MVP, like runner-up year or whatever he finished, that seems like that was a total fluke. It seems like we have enough body or experience here where he's not that guy. That 1 year was the fluke, and this is who he is.
I'm not ready to completely abandon ship on him. I think the pedigree is still there. I think they have messed with his weight, with his swing a lot in Toronto to try and tweak him. And I just think he just needs a completely new destination to try to revitalize his career. Now, you're right, Matt. I don't think there are MVP seasons left in him, but there is no reason why he can't be like a Nelson Cruz to have a Nelson Cruz type career where he bounces from place to place as a slugger, or even like a JD Martinez as well. I think the attitude's there. Again, I think the lineage is there. Again, the Guerreros know how to hit. I still believe in that. I still believe in him, just not in this place.
If his last name was not Guerrero, would you still think the same thing? If his last name was Smith?
No, I see what you're trying to set me up for. It's your Jeter argument. Yeah. And I respect it. But no, I look at him. I look at his swing. It's loopy. It's long. Yeah, and I just think if he's in the right circumstance, I think he can rebuild himself. But I don't think it's going to happen in Toronto. And I think Toronto invested so much into this Bo Bichette, Vlad Guerrero pairing that they, number two, doubled down on veteran additions. And that has really weighed down this organization. They gave a whole bunch of money to George Springer. Not exactly working out. Then they gave a whole bunch of money to bring in Matt Chapman. They gave prospects to give up Matt Chapman. Only there for 1 year. You brought in Jose Barrios, who's pitching better. But now they brought in Kevin Gausman, who was pitching, who was their ace for at least a year or two. And now he has subsided a little bit. They brought in all these veterans who are, again, at the age of 30 or well over the age of 30. And now you're hamstrung by these contracts. And now you got to figure out, okay, how can I shed these contracts and kind of rebuild a new nucleus with this team? Because you now need a new nucleus. Because Bo Bichette and Vlad, I think their days are numbered in Toronto. Because you look at the prospects, their prospects haven't worked out either. Ricky Tiedemann, who's down in AAA, has pitched 3 games this year. His ERA is well over 5. Nate Pearson, another highly touted prospect. He's come up with Toronto. His ERA last year was near 5. This year, I believe it's exactly at 6. You traded away Gabriel Moreno for Dalton Varsho. That's not working out for you either.
It worked out for the Diamondbacks.
It worked out for the Diamondbacks, but not for you guys at all. You moved on from certain prospects. The ones you kept have not worked out. No real positional players, again, outside of Bichette or Vlad, have worked out for them at all either. They spent a high draft pick to get Austin Martin, only to trade him very quickly to the Minnesota Twins. This is an organization that, again, went all in. I respect the fact that they did it, but now you have to admit it doesn't work. You got to pull this thing up. You got to start sending these guys out of here and trying to recoup as much cash back as you can and as many prospects back as you can, because this system needs to be rebuilt.
And they have players they can flip, like Turner, Kikuchi.
Yep.
Like, I don't know if they would end up like doing it, but like Romano can go. Mm-hmm. I mean, they have some like valuable pieces on like the last year of their contract that they could get. They could get some pieces. I don't think they are a very frustrating team to follow and to watch. Even like Bo Bichette, like I'm not 100% sold either on him as well as like, okay, like the future shortstop. they're just like, they're kind of teetering on like the Mets sort of. I know I always go back to Mets just because I watch them so much, where it's like, what we're doing is not working. We've tried the Chris Bassett's, we've tried this avenue to keep us competitive, keep our window open. We've got this young nucleus under like a good contract, but it's not coming to fruition.
No, it's not. It's time to blow it up.
Absolutely. I agree. Send Bichette to the Mets for Lindor.
I got it. Oh my God. Go next slide, man.
Okay.
Go
So
ahead.
I'm gonna go on my little
Yep.
soapbox here.
Go. Can I go upstairs and cook dinner real quick while you're doing this for the next hour?
Go ahead, because I'm just gonna rip into this. And we started talking about this a little bit
Yes, we
before
did.
we actually started recording. So now, after getting swept in Cleveland to the Guardians, not the Indians, I didn't make the mistake that time. They're now 21-28. There's 7 games under 500. Now, we've been talking about the NL just being, other than like a 3-team top heavy league,
Yep.
everybody else is 500 or below. So they're not completely like out of a wild card
No,
spot.
I think they're only like 2.5 games or 3 games out of the last wild card spot, which is nuts.
Which is shocking to me. And when you
Yep.
watch them play, they are not a fun team. There's not one redeeming quality about this team. You have Diaz looking like an absolute shell of himself, to the point where I felt legitimately bad for him when they were up against the Marlins. I forgot what day it was, when they were up several runs. I think they were up 4 runs. They brought in Diaz. I live bet the Mets to lose. Like,
Ooh.
what kind of fan is that, where I'm like, they're 4 runs up against the Marlins, who I feel like my high school team could be. And I'm like, I don't trust Diaz to close the door. And he doesn't. And then he loses. His amount of home runs that he's given up, his fastball velocity, seems like he has no trust in his fastball whatsoever.
And it's super flat. It has no movement. I mean, it just here it is, fellas. It's almost like a batting practice fastball at this point.
Exactly. And hitters are sitting on the slider, and the slider doesn't have the same horizontal or vertical break that it had before. I've never seen his home runs tattooed the way it is.
Yeah.
It's almost like, who's the Mets pitcher? Every time he gave up a home run, he would point up to the ball, and it would always be a home run. I can picture him.
Steve Trashkull?
No, he was Hispanic. Oh God, I can't remember. But he's basically like, every single time he comes in, he's giving up a gopher ball. And then I'm like, the back end of the rotation, you have Ottavino, who is doing well. They have pieces,
not
and
today.
like you said, I know.
Yeah,
and you've been saying before, like, the bullpen has been the strong point. Eventually, that's not something you can rely on.
Nope.
When starters aren't going anything.
Exactly.
Your like major contributors, forget Lindor. Okay, Lindor's hitting sub 200, but if you look at like his advanced metrics, like, he's actually hitting the ball hard, squaring the ball up. He's got good exit velocity, hitting into bad luck. Not hitting as well as he should, that he typically does in the back of the baseball card, but he's not horrible. But look at these 2 people that the Mets were relying on this year. You have a reigning batting champ in Jeff McNeil that should not be a Major League Baseball player anymore. If you look at his stats, everything is poor across baseball. Everything that matters. His exit velocity, his slugging, his bat speed, his barrel percentage is 4%, which is basically like unplayable. His hard hit percentage is an 8.
His at bats have been so terrible to watch.
Yes.
It's like he literally goes up there without any kind of plan whatsoever. It's like, I'm just gonna swing at anything that's close, and that's it. I don't care what kind of contact I make.
It's and every single time, you know what he's going to do. It's going to be a weak grounder to the second baseman. I don't know if banning the shift was the worst thing that possibly ever happened to him, because I remember when he won the batting title, he had no issue with going down the left field line.
Right.
He never does that anymore.
Nope.
There was a particular stretch after he won the batting title where he got really pull happy, where it was like, look, I could be like a 20 home run guy.
Right.
He's not even that anymore.
No.
I could deal with a 240, a 250 if you're hitting 20. He's got what, 2 home runs now? And
3.
this is your second 3. And this is your second baseman that you're like, okay, he was going to be our 5 or 6 hitter. He could even be a 2 hitter. And he's absolutely doing nothing.
Yep.
Poor defender as well. Poor base runner. So you're looking at his fielding, his range, 11. Arm strength, 21. Sprint speed, 13. His whiff percentage, that's the only thing that he has that's not bad. He makes contact, but again, it's these weak grounders that he just rolls the ball over. You can have that if that's your 8th place hitter. if that's your catcher, if that's your ninth place hitter, you've also got this all throughout the lineup. Brett Beatty, who we were congratulating earlier in the season, where he was like, seemed like a completely different player, the cheerleader involved. Yeah. His stats are just as bad as McNeil's.
Yeah, they're not good.
If not worse.
Yep.
Vientos now has to be the everyday starting third baseman for the rest of the year. He makes solid contact. He puts the ball in play. He's got his strong arm. His glove might be like he's playing with 2 cinder blocks, but I would rather have him out there than Brett Beatty, who's basically he's an automatic out. If it's lefty on lefty, Beatty has no shot.
He has no shot.
Give it to Vientos. Give it to some. You need somebody in that lineup. Absolutely nobody is contributing right now. Their offense is putrid. They're starting pitching. Hosier should never. He should be DFA'd like right now.
Yeah,
I never want to see him pitch again.
It's gotten that bad. I agree.
It's just they are an absolute. Marte does nothing for me. Did you see the play yesterday? I've gotten to the point now where I don't even put the games on. I go online yesterday and I see the stupid like little league thing where you had 2 base runners thrown out on the same play. How does a Major League Baseball team have that happen? Marte to me is always like, I'm going to jog if the ball's hit to like the shortstop. I'm not going to run anything out. I'll occasionally put a good charge into it, but I don't care. I don't know if he's trying to nurse the hamstring, the groin, whatever it is. Starling Marte is not a starting outfielder anymore. He's a 4th outfielder at best. JD Martinez can't play every day. Pete Alonso's being absolutely horse crap.
I don't want to cut you off, but I do have a simple answer to this. I'm putting this on the manager. I'm putting this on Carlos Mendoza.
See, I like him.
So let me explain. I don't know what you're like because this body language I think is reflective of the manager. I think you look at this is the worst Mets defense we've seen with this group by far. Lindor doesn't look like he's round out to shape. Other guys as well. Base running miscues, bullpen mismanagement. Putting Diaz, clearly something is wrong with Diaz, but we continue to put him out there during this losing streak, knowing that his stuff, like you just said, is nowhere near as good. So are you not watching him warm up? Are you not getting this information from your pitching coaches? But yet we're going to continue to ride it. How long are we going to ride this for? Oh, until he breaks down, starts crying. And now we're going to go ahead and move on from this. This is, to me, indicative on a first-year manager. Again, with no managing experience whatsoever. And again, I understand players have to play, but guess what? Managers have to manage the clubhouse. You have to manage the energy level. You have to manage the, attention to detail. And this team has 0 attention to detail. That, to me, falls on the manager.
But my retort to that is, how many managers can we go back now that we could blame it on? So you have Mendoza. Buck Showalter got a raw deal. I feel like Buck did not know how to manage a roster where if you were young, you didn't play. If you were a bullpen arm that he could rely on, he wore you out. That's Buck. But Buck was a proven winner, even though he never won the big one. You go to Luis Rojas, again, new manager. To me, was one of the worst managers the Mets have ever had. Mickey Callaway, take away the fact that he's a pervert. To me, he was not a major league manager. Good pitching coach with the Angels, was not managerial material. Terry Collins, I would say, would be the best Mets manager that they've had since Bobby Valentine. You go
or
like
Willie
I'm
Randolph.
thinking like Art Howe. Willie Randolph had his issues too with the collapses continuously, and he would just sit there with his stoic Yankee mustache.
But the team competed. Matt, this is the third year.
Was so much better.
This is the 3rd year in a row. We're talking about another epic collapse in May and/or June. 3rd year in a row of this. Or it's just loss after loss. I mean, again, we were talking in April, like, hey, they're hovering around 500. The pitching's really good. The offense is going to figure it out. Nothing's been figured out at all. So are you blowing this up?
I'm blowing them up completely, and to the point where it's now, it's done that Pete's gone. Like we talked about last time with the contract being leaked.
Yep.
That to me screams that we know he's gone.
Again, credit to the Baseball Show podcast. I love those guys. And I thought, I think it was Aram made a great point in saying that whole situation is weird because number one, why would Pete just, or even whatchamacallit, agent, help me out, agent.
Scott Boras.
Thank you, Scott Boras. Why would they just say no to that deal and not go back to the negotiating table?
Because that's Boras, though. Boras is my guys set their market value in free agency.
Yeah, but wait a minute. Like, that deal wasn't like a low ball offer. That's
Mhm.
right in the ballpark of where Freddie Freeman and Matt Olson are at. What I'm saying is, and this is the point they made, is how do you not sit down at the table and go, okay, well then we want 7 for 180, and then you negotiate. But there was zero negotiation. Boris has told Alonso, and this hasn't been leaked out at all, that no matter what number they're offering us, we're just going to say no matter what. We're not even going to sit down and listen to this. This whole thing seems shady to me. They need to trade Pete because they're not contending. You got to get something for him. He's going to the open market regardless. Let's not Jose Reyes this situation. But there's something about that reporting that just seems we're missing big components to this story.
There's always a motive behind things getting leaked. And with Pete, the type of player that he is, again, you know my stance, you know who I don't like him, but I respect him as a baseball player and the value that he brings. He is somebody that is not mentally strong. Or if things are not going right, how many times does he go into these swoons? You can see it in his body language, you can see it in the way he holds himself. And you're like, there's no way he's coming out of this for 20 to 30 at bats. He'll put a good swing on the ball. And again, baseball to me is 90% mental. If your mentals are not in the game and you're thinking about what I did last at bat, you take that out into the field, it's going to cripple you. It's hard enough to hit 100 anyway. If your mind's chirping at you, and I know it, what your mind can do to you, like he is completely in his own head. I think the contract's weighing on him. I think he sees significant dollars floating away. Or if I don't turn this around, I'm going to be sitting on a 2-year, $40 million deal, and I just pissed away 80, 90, 100 million. I think that's obviously weighing on him. I think he sees his time's up. He said, I want to be blue and orange. Was there at Florida? Is there with the Mets? I think he sees the end of the road, and I think he knows I'm not going to be here next year. I'm not going to be here when it comes to July. And honestly, I don't blame the Mets for being like, look, we see the value, we see the pop, we see the RBI, but it's not worth it to it.
And I'm with you there. That's why, again, this story doesn't make a lot of sense to me. How, if he's right, because I heard him say all the same things. He wants to be a Met for life. Here was the opportunity. And not once did you sit down to negotiate a deal. Not once. That doesn't make sense. Say what you want about Scott Boras. I'm sorry. The agent still works for the player. And if Pete wanted to sit down, I'm sure Boras would have sat down and they possibly could have worked something out. That's why I don't know how much of that story I'm really buying. But
I agree. Again, there's two sides to every story.
Yes, there is.
Even with the Mets blowing it up, so for 2025, the current salary that they have, they're about 155 million guaranteed. So that takes them way underneath the luxury tax. You get rid of the dead contracts and Scherzer. If Verlander doesn't reach his innings, whatever cap it was, Verlander's contract comes off the book. They're still paying Brian McCann. How horrible of a signing like that was.
You mean James McCann? James
McCann, not Brian McCann. James McCann. They have all those dead contracts that are going to be off the books next year. You have Soto hanging out there. You've got a way to rebuild. Now, again, I just saw this online today earlier when Epler was leaving, when you had the Epler to Stearns transition. Epler was pretty much saying how like they needed to trade Pete in this offseason. And Stearns was adamant of, no, I'm not doing that. Now, again, if that's actually something that's true, I don't know. I was not a fan of Epler, but Epler seemed to me too.
Who is Billy Epler to give me advice? Have you seen how good the Brewers have been in the last 5 years?
True. But the
Thanks,
thing
Billy.
is, I'm thinking like, okay, he got us some pieces. So I would be for the Mets being like, if you can get anything for McNeil, if you can get anything for Marte, if you can get anything for Ottavino. Again, if you even look, I can't remember the name that they got, but the guy that they traded for Pham for last year, I forgot, to the Diamondbacks. Like they got valuable pieces, even if they are young. When they said last year, when they were trying to get rid of Scherzer and Verlander, when they said like, look, next year we're basically punting. We don't have World Series or bust aspirations next year. It's really 2025 where things start to come in to like formidable. I thought they were just BSing to be like, we want to get Scherzer, we want to get Verlander out of here to save some money. I think that's genuinely like what they believe, that this year was a punt year to get rid of these bad contracts. If Jeff McNeil is the starting second baseman come August 1st, I'm not putting on another Mets game. I don't care if Acuna is not hitting in AAA. He needs to be brought up. Jet Williams needs to be brought up. Like, I know he's injured as well. Bring up Drew Gilbert, bring up Acuna, bring up Clifford. Christian Scott looks like he's going to be like a formidable, maybe like a 3, possibly a 2. They have pieces. Blow this team up. Anybody who's JD Martinez, get rid of. Anybody that's over the age of 28 is on the table. I would even say, even though I know basically his contract isn't movable, Lindor can go. Like, I'm starting to even sour on him, or there can only be so much where you stand up in front of a camera and you be like, I've got to be better. Bro, you're hitting under 200. It's now almost June. And this is not like a small sample size. You can be MVP. His quotes, did you see his quotes that he said going back to Cleveland?
Yeah, how he misses the winning. Yeah.
Yes. Bro, you're one of the main reasons why they're not winning. What about that winning when you played the Padres? Where was that? Like, you're telling me your Cleveland teams had better roster than the Mets were last year? Yeah. I am so sour on this team where I'm like, I don't watch you. I didn't even look today when I'm at school to see what the score was. It's not until I got home, I go ask Siri what the score was. I'm like, oh, shocking. There's nothing about this team that's a good quality. And now, again, they don't have to be the Yankees. They don't have to be the Dodgers. I don't expect them to be 20, 30 games above 500. I want a team that competes and is fun to watch. They are none of that. They're a bunch of old, bad baseball players.
There's zero excuse why this team cannot be competing with the way the pitching has been for a wild card spot. There's no reason for it. No reason for it at all. I mean, you bring up guys like McNeil and Marte. I don't think those guys have any real trade value.
Get rid of them just to take up a spot. You're taking up a spot now. We'll get
the guys that got to trade are guys like who are actually playing well. Like Luis Severino should not be on this team by the trade deadline. Sean Manaea should not be on this team. And it's because they've been pitching so well. Jake Diekman, Adam Ottavino. I'll do you one bet. You brought up Lindor. I'm going to say Diaz. If we can bring Diaz back and he can elevate his velocity, he starts to look right again. Matt, if we're not competing in 2 years, what the hell do we need a primetime closer for?
I like Reed Garrett. Reed Garrett to me is
Reed Garrett's just a little bit older though. So that's why he's fine for now, but again, there's no reason to have one of the best closers in baseball if he's able to regain his status as that on a losing team, because we can get some serious stuff back for that. So I agree. It's time to blow it up. They can't trade everybody. They can't trade everybody. As angry as you are and I am, you can't trade absolutely everybody. Let's just start with trading the guys who can get us some real value back. Because McNeil, Marte, Beatty, if they ever wanted to float him out there, those guys ain't it.
I just don't even want to see them anymore. Like, I know McNeil has like a significant amount of his contract left. When he signed that, I thought that was like one of the best deals in baseball.
Oh, God.
I hate him. He might be my least favorite Met of all time. Yeah. He's ugly. His teeth, everything about him, I cannot stand. My mom, my poor Christian mom, every time she sees him, it's like all he does is chuck his helmet and swear.
Yep.
Like, I wish Lindor would take him down into towards the clubhouse and punch him in the face again, just because he's so ugly. I cannot stand him.
Next one.
God.
Yeah, we got the facial features of baseball players.
I need Oppenheimer to go right over City.
Yeah, we've reached new depths here. All right. Detroit Tigers. This is a team to build up, sir. Next slide. Keep this moving here.
No, I want to talk negative. I want bad things. I don't want good things. I hate teams that are on the rise.
Well, the Tigers showing promise of being on the rise. Now, right now, they are in 4th place in the AL Central. That is because the Cleveland Guardians are amazing. The Kansas City Royals are amazing. Minnesota went on that amazing run. And being in the 4th place, you would start to think, okay, are we really competing for this year? For the Tigers, it's not about competing this year. It's about continuing to build for the future. This system is working. And in order to keep building up, what the Tigers need to do is this starting pitching, number one, must continue to ascend. Tariq Skubal is a Cy Young candidate for this year. Matt Manning in his appearances have looked good. Reese Olson has looked better. Casey Mize has pitched well. All their young guys that are coming up are starting to show the promise we started to see in the minors. And Matt, I'm going to give you a name. Keep this in the back of your mind. His name is Jackson Jobe. And Jackson Jobe has the most electric stuff, I would say, in the entire Tigers organization. I'll say he has more electric stuff than Tariq Skubal does right now.
He looked good when he pitched against the Mets earlier in the year, but I would look good pitching against them.
Well, Jackson Jobe?
Yep.
Was he up? Did he come up already?
Yeah, it was the one game. I forgot what game. I'll look it
yes,
up.
Right. Yes, he had a brief. Okay. Yes. I'm telling you, he needs a little bit more refining, but when he's ready to go, that guy's going to be a factor. Number 2, you have to recognize who your stars are. And right now, they don't have any real stars yet. I think Riley Green has showed promises. Spencer Torkelson, he has struggled so far this year, but he has shown promises. I think Colt Keith could be one of those guys as well. He has also struggled this year, but that's why it's so important they recognize who those guys are. Don't double down like the Blue Jays did. Give these guys time to develop. Don't commit too early, okay? Be flexible with these young guys that are coming up. Let's see what you have first before any big contracts really are signed. And number 3, don't be afraid to be aggressive now. And I have a plan to make the Tigers relevant now. Now, don't click just yet.
I was just about to.
Good thing I stopped you. I think the pitching right now, leave it alone. You want to add a veteran starter? Fine. The bullpen definitely needs some work. James Foley has been awesome in the back end. Need some other guys there to help him out as well. What the Tigers do need, though, is the Tigers do need a guy. They thought Javier Baez, for whatever reason, why they thought this, was the guy. But there's someone else they can bring in that you can build these stars around. Go ahead. And I think the Detroit Tigers and Toronto Blue Jays should sit down with one another and work out this deal. Bo Bichette from the Blue Jays to the Detroit Tigers for Jace Jung, one of their top prospects. Matt Manning, who I think they view as kind of the weaker of all their starting pitching prospects, and Keter Montero, another starting pitcher in their system as well. I think right now he's like number 9 in their prospect system. Right now he's actually averaging over a strikeout per inning. So to me, it's 2 clear messages. Number 1, the Detroit Tigers are going to take on Bichette. They still got another year before they can negotiate a new contract with him. Bring him in, see how he fits on this team with the stars you have around him. Let's see how Bichette's play and his bat can elevate the bats of the Colt Keiths of the world, of the Riley Greens, the Spencer Torkelsons, Parker Meadows, and oh my God, I'm forgetting one other guy. Oh, Kerry Carpenter. I love Kerry Carpenter. Let's just see what this does to their lineup. Again, not saying Bo Bichette is Juan Soto, but additions like this can really elevate the status of your lineup. Look at what Cespedes did one day for the Mets during those magical 4 months there. I think Bichette fits in perfectly with the Tigers. Yes, you saw the issue of where we putting Javier Baez. Whatever, you're paying him anyways. Pay him to be on your bench because he ain't figuring it out anytime soon. And that should not stop you from making a move like this and then going and extending Bo Bichette. And this is a clear message to the Blue Jays. We are starting over. We're going to replenish our pitching prospects. We can right now put Matt Manning into the rotation. Jace Jung has showed a lot of promise in the minors. I question his pop in that bat. I don't know if he's going to be as good as his brother. I know some people think he's going to be better. I'm not quite there yet. But this is a good deal for both sides.
So I just tried putting it through a trade simulator,
and
it wouldn't let me do it.
Because it's so great, the system broke.
Exactly. So it's baseballtradevalues.com, and it said it would not be accepted by the Blue Jays.
Wow. Okay. Well, that's fine. Does the simulator know how bad the Blue Jays are? Did they listen to this podcast before they decided their little like algorithms there?
This might be a little janky website.
Yeah, I'm thinking it is. I don't think they've tuned into Hats and Bats and listened to my little rant earlier. So next, Matt.
Every time I see Javi Baez, I think of Pete Crow Armstrong, and then I'm just like, it just brings me back. Why do the Mets bring me so much pain? Why do I
don't know. It's a test of love, sir. And you can love in the most trying of times.
And the thing with the Tigers too, and we talked about it with the Yankees, AJ Hinch is like, he's the manager you want leading this young team, where again, they might not be like world beaters this year. Next year, they're going to be a bona fide like serious contention team.
They need pieces. They still need pieces. And again, a lot of these prospects they have up. Let's see if they can put together an entire 162 game season, because we haven't seen that yet.
Yeah. In baseball, you never know, especially I think about Generation K with the Mets. You had Pulsiver and all those guys. You're like, okay, here's our window, and pitching just never seems to even itself out.
Yeah.
All right, so my build-up team, the Pittsburgh Pirates, the stadium, the colors. I posed this question on MLB's Reddit page the other day, just thinking that I was going to get ridiculed. And my comment was just strictly, is Paul Skeens currently the best pitcher in baseball? Just trying to stir the pot a little bit, just thinking if I could get people to be like, you're an absolute idiot. And I was actually shocked. The greater majority was like, he just might be. Now, I know he's only thrown like 2 games in the major leagues, and he's a year removed from LSU.
Yep.
I'm telling you, the guy is special. Mm-hmm. The fastball, the ride on the fastball, he is just something where like this is a generational talent. Yep. Where you keep him healthy, it's like you have that stud. It's the Garrett Cole, it's the Justin Verlander, it's the Jacob deGrom. You have that. You are pieces away from being a legit contender. And then you add in Jared Jones, who prospects way more than I do. Again, when I first saw him pitch against the Mets, I'm like, who is this guy? And it's like, oh, it's one of their valuable pitching prospects. Their pitching prospects is loaded. They have the 9th ranked farm system in baseball. That was prior to Skeens being called up, so it's probably a little bit lower now. But they have 3 other pitchers in their top 100. Solamento was number 82 overall. Looked up his windup, just trying to get a little taste of what he's like. Reminds me so much of Bumgarner. So when I'm watching it, I'm like, that's Mad Bum. Like, that's what I saw watching. Now, again, don't know his stuff. I'm watching YouTube clips. So I'm like, that reminds me of Mad Gum. Bubba Chandler, the number 93 prospect, Thomas Harrington. They have the pieces where it's like, we have the arms. We can go find the bats. You can't always go out and find the arms.
Yeah.
You get this cacophony of players that are young. You roll the dice. You hope 2 or 3 of them stick. And again, Skeens and Jones look like one of the most formidable 1-2 punches in baseball. You can surround them with some element of an offense. To me, they are a team where it's like the NL Central is a young, good division. I don't see why the Pirates, with their collection of pitching, I don't see why they can't be a team on the rise. Now, again, it takes a lot to overthrow the Dodgers, to overthrow the Braves, to overthrow the Phillies. But again, the NL is like the NBA's East, where you have like Giannis, you have the Celtics, you have a couple injuries go your way. All of a sudden, your pathway seems a lot easier. The Pirates are not a team right now where I'd be like, okay, I'm going to put all my money in them. Next year, 2026, when these arms all percolate to the top, they're going to be a team that's going to be one you don't want to see. The back end of the bullpen is something like, okay, they will be able to get together. Bednar seems to be like he's kind of like all over the place. Chapman, I don't know if Chapman's going to be around for much longer. But again, when you have the young arms there, to me, that's something that you invest in. It's the young QB on the rookie contract. You don't get that often. It's like, okay, now it's time to go all in.
Yep. I mean, I would love to see O'Neal Cruz. I thought he was, because he had such a great spring. He's going to take this next step as a player. I like the other guys they have in the farm system as well. Tramar Johnson, I think, could be a stud when he comes up. Unfortunately, what it's going to come down to again, Matt, because like you're saying, you have these arms. Are you going to hang on to them? And is Bob Nutting, the Pirates owner, going to invest in this team? I mean, I would love to see him come out tomorrow. You know what? We're signing Paul Skeens, as dangerous that would be for a young pitcher, to a 7-year, I don't know, $15 million per, whatever.
Like, God, they would sign that right now. He would do that right now if he signed.
Who wouldn't? Why wouldn't you? I would love that, just to kind of show to the fan base, okay, yes, I've been stingy in the past. I've been whatever in the past. But you know what? Now we're talking about the future. And this is what I want to do. I will invest in this, because this is the best chance they have under the Bob Nutting regime to build a winner.
And they
Will
were
he
winners
actually?
before.
What's up?
They were winners before. Like there was a stretch there when they had with like the McCutcheon's like first stint where like they were like a bona fide playoff team every single year, and then they just fell off and like, okay, we're back to being the Pirates. Like
Yeah,
they could be a
true.
There's something to it when you have young pitching. Again, I go back to DeGrom, Harvey, Matz. It was like we have like a pathway here. Like we can win 2-1 games. Like we've got the studs out there that can shove.
Yep.
Like we don't need to have Barry Bonds in his prime in order to be effective.
Absolutely.
We can win. And especially in that division, especially in the NL, like they would be a team I would invest in.
Yep, I would too. I just hope he does. All right, Matt, listen, we are an hour and a half in. I know we got our all-time favorite teams we still left to do, but I think we've covered a lot of ground here today in this podcast here. How about we're going to save our all-time favorite team stuff for next week? All right, we're going to have a lot of other great stuff to talk. I have to go eat dinner. I have to go eat some dinner. I got to get some more energy in me.
I'm going to go take a nap.
Serious. I know it's been a long week, but you know what, guys? Next week, it's going to be cooler in my classroom, be more refreshed, and we're going to talk some more great baseball stuff next week here on Hats and Bats.